As you can see right before you, we are three individuals here with all smiles. That's because I, who have followed the Western Ghats from their initial days when they started out in 2020, is mighty pleased to be hosting Aryaendra and Sunil. Welcome, the Western Ghats. So lovely to see you guys. And firstly, congratulations for the journey that you all have had since you all began in the pandemic. I have been following your music so closely, and I remember how mesmerized I was when I first heard Kitabo, and eventually when when you guys released your album Self Help Radio, it was so amazing as an album, and I'm really happy to see how you guys have come a long way since then to now coming close to performing at the NH7 weekend or whatever happened to however ill-fated that turned out to be eventually, but welcome, guys. Welcome to On VJ's playlist, and thank you for taking out the time to speak to me. How have you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
Vijay, for
you.
having us.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's been quite a ride. We remember you writing about our music back in 2020, and that was such a great push for us, artists just starting out, and that was amazing. That really gave us the first batch of critical I wouldn't call them acclamations, but critical things that we heard about our music, and they were all positive. So that was one of the very important things for us to keep going from that point on. And yeah, we are so glad to be finally here, and thank you so much for having us.
Pleasure is all mine. But Aryaendra, Sunil, I need to first begin by asking both of you, uh, how did the Western Ghats happen? And because it happened in the pandemic, how important was it for you to then put out music in such a challenging phase where avenues for musicians were not really open then? And
Hmm.
at the same time, what was the mind space you all were operating from? Who all were your initial, I won't say initial, but whose stories did you follow? And whose music left huge imprints in in shaping you as artists? I know this is a pretty loaded question, but let's go through the beats step by step. But just by starting with the inception of the band, how did the Western Ghats come together?
So you want to take this one?
Go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, we actually started the Western Ghats. I think just before the COVID, somewhere around 4 months back. I think yeah. So from there, actually, me and Aryan met through one of our mutual friend. So that's how got connected. So Arya was in Pune, and I was staying in Mumbai at that time. So we started working together, for some covers, and like that. Then like we did some covers, like some English covers and some Bollywood covers, and then after that, we thought if we can do some our original compositions, and Arya made me listen some of our original, which he already composed and kept in his college days.
Sunil actually reached out to me through a mutual friend. He had watched some of the YouTube covers I had been putting out in my college time, and I was also trying to make some original music at the time, but nothing was really clicking because I'm not a producer, and I can barely I can barely produce to give Sunil some ideas of how a song has to be, and that's my
Just the
process, and
dummy idea.
exactly, just the idea. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just give it to Sunil in the most basic possible form so he could understand what has to be done. And then he builds his own ideas on top of that. So that's
Right.
the most important part of the chain. But yeah, so that was the initial phase. And we had this thing that we really wanted to make some good original music. And we were not really sure of what kind of original music we were going to get into. But we just had this one reference point. I think Sunil would remember this. It was this song called Avicii's. wake me up when it's all over. So that has like a thumping kick going on with like an acoustic guitar happening. So that was the
Correct.
initial idea of the first original that we had. And like I already had like a basic melody of Humne Bhi with me. And Sunil basically told me, like, what if we could do something like this? And I tried to do that. And like, I just recorded the guitars. I was in Hyderabad at the time. I was I was there in Hyderabad to actually meet my girlfriend at the time. And now fiance, obviously. We not at the time, but yeah. So yeah, I was in Hyderabad and I just recorded like a basic demo from there. I sent it to Sunil and he was like, bro, let's do it. Let's like, record over it. And he basically put like a thumping beat over it. And that's how Humne Bhi was born. And it was exactly before COVID. Like, we were just about to go back home.
Yeah.
And things were like looking pretty downhill from there. And like, the all new, like, it was all over the news that the country is gonna get shut down. And we were like, dude, what to do now? We have so much music to create, and like, what's gonna happen? So a lot of the work for Amnebi had been done, but some of it was left, like, some of the last remaining production bits and mixing mastering was still left. So that happened right in the COVID, like right when the COVID hit, and like the March, April time. And then, like, we got our first distributor. We found everything, like, how to make it all happen while we were not together. So found our
So
distributor
let
and
me
like,
understand this. Sorry to cut you there. Let me understand this. At this point, when you guys are back in the
yeah,
middle of the pandemic, where were you both at?
yeah.
You were in Mumbai, Pune, or like Hyderabad and Pune?
No, so I was just in Hyderabad. The last, like, in the very last days before the COVID had hit. So around, like,
Right.
17th 18th March, around that time. And I heard the news that, like, it's getting pretty bad. So I booked my flights to Lucknow. I'm actually from Lucknow, so I went back to Lucknow. And Sunil was in Pune in the first, like, first few months of the lockdown.
Mumbai.
He in Mumbai. Sorry, yeah, sorry. Sunil was in Mumbai in the first few months of lockdown. And then, like, once the lockdown had hit properly, that's when he moved back to Kerala.
So if I may understand, between Lucknow and Kerala, this whole exchange of, notes between both of you just to release Humne Bhi, that your first
Yeah,
came out, your very first single that came out in 2020. It must have been
yeah,
maddening, no? Just sending
yeah,
such heavy files to each other, those final mixes and everything, before you
yeah,
finally at last finalized on the edit that hit streaming eventually. It must have been
right.
really daunting, right?
It was crazy. It was crazy. Like, we did not.
Everything
Yeah,
happened
yeah,
through phone calls.
everything
Yeah.
happened through phone call. We didn't know what to do. Like, it was very new for everybody. I don't think even Sunil has been a veteran. Like, he's been doing this a very long time, being a producer in the industry. I don't think even he's seen a situation like this, which is like, completely remote working. I think his process is usually to go to like, the
Studio, yeah.
composer's place and like, yeah, studio and work there. So I don't think even he has seen something like that. But yeah, that was crazy. And yeah, we made it work somehow.
Made it work somehow. Yes, that really calls for sheer determination. But Sunil, since Arya just mentioned how uh, you are so used to actually being in close proximity with your collaborators, with everybody who you're working with, you need that kind of coordination and that kind of sync for, all the inputs to fall in place. I mean, isolation is never something that I don't think so. Anyone who
Correct.
who loves working in tandem with everybody in the process can, isolation, it doesn't work, sit well with that person. How is it for you, Sunil, then? I mean, when you had to really finalize that, that final mix, how was that for you? How were those days for you?
It was pretty challenging, as Arya mentioned. Like, this is the first time for me also. Like, everything happened through phone calls. So, getting files from Arya, the final vocals from Arya, then the final guitars from the guitarist, then everything I have to collect it together, finally produced. sending it to the main engineer for the mix. Then we all sit together in group call, and like we discuss
Yeah.
about the mix. So it was pretty challenging actually. Yeah. So somehow, like as Arya mentioned, like somehow it worked.
So
Yeah.
how,
So after a funny story,
yeah,
yeah,
so, correct.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead. The fun story. You were coming with a fun story.
Yeah, so the funny story is that like the first song we did not have any sort of tools to actually mix and like master the tracks remotely. I think the second song onwards, our mix engineer
Then,
JK at the time, yeah, Din. So for that, I think he had come up with this very intuitive solution of like this
The
tool called Audio Movers. So it's
yeah,
basically like direct streaming from his computer to our like our headphones, and it's like lossless. So that was not
wow.
that we did not know about that tool before that. And once we got to know about that tool, and that tool became everything for us. Like during the COVID, all the songs were getting mixed like that. And even after COVID, like we were all together, but like maybe in different cities, that was still our go-to tool. But see, that's the thing, right? Like because of COVID, we got to know about that tool, and like that became such a important part of our like
yes,
the whole process now. So that's very cool.
I have always looked at the pandemic as this blessing in disguise for independent artists, especially somewhere. I mean, if it may have not been so really, I understand they have been monetary challenges. I understand there must have been a lot of challenges in terms of mental and physical health, and in terms of, financially also, that it was a very taxing phase for artists in general. But I also feel in terms of visibility, there was enough space and room for a lot of acts that really got noticed around that time. But even before the pandemic hit, Arya, Sunil, there were a lot of bands and artists who were possibly in that nascent stage of fame. Some of them were already playing the big ticket lineup. Some of them were already um, on their way to becoming mainstream, or on their way to getting recognized. So if you have been closely following the Indian independent music scene, in the initial years, somewhere around from the 2010s to the latter half of 2010s, who are some of the Indian independent acts that you thought were very inspiring in what they were doing, and somewhere it sort of shaped your perspective also about how you wanted to go about putting your music out independently.
uh, should I go first, Sunil?
yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think my both of us, I'll let Sunil answer later, but yeah, for both of us, I know that like it was local train had a really huge role to basically play in our independent journey starting out. That was the only like not really only, but like the only band that had made it that big in the Indian independent scene. So we were really inspired by their music, and like we were listening to everything that they were putting out, and it was a very interesting time. And we were actually friends with the touring manager of local train also. So we actually got to see two of their sound checks. I got to see one of their sound checks in Pune, and their gig as well. And Sunil got to see their sound check and like the show in Bombay. So we had like a good opportunity to actually see them like prep for their shows and talk to them also. Basically, like I spoke to Raman, I spoke to Paras, like in a very detailed conversations. Paras and I like jammed for a little bit. He played the guitar. I just sang a few tunes on it. So it was a very interesting time that we actually had access to that band from a personal standpoint also. But yes, I would say from an inspiration standpoint for me, it was Local Train. All in all, like that was the only independent band I was looking up to. And I still like when I have to listen to like great Hindi rock music, I still go back to them, and that's a very sacred place for me. So Sunil, whatever you.
Arya already told everything. So same as me also, like local train was one of the major inspiration. Like we went to their show also. Like we had a chance to go to their backstage, talk to them. It was it was very really motivating thing for us actually. Yeah.
Both of you can please, shed light on your inklings towards music. How did that happen? If I have to ask both of you individually, beginning with you, Sunil, how did music become your calling in life? Was that always something that you wanted to pursue? Did you find, instant encouragement in the family when you broke to them that you want to do music? Or did they have other aspirations for you? Just both of you, if you could, in your own respective rights, can give us, some idea about your beginnings and how you guys took towards music eventually.
For me, it's like since childhood, I'm born and raised in a like Christian church background, and also so I used to get like a lot of like church activities. I used to perform from my childhood onwards for church programs, and different types of church programs and all from my school days. So at that time onwards, like my major thing is like once I come back from school, I keep my bag, then I will spend my most of the time to music. Like either like I was having some I remember like I was having a small computer and a keyboard. At that time onwards, I used to start a record. At that time, I don't know anything about producing and all, of course. So like I started, but still I started like playing in the keyboard, and I started recording. I got a sound card from like when my dad went to US at that time, he got a sound card for me. So I used to like start recording with that. Whatever like I learn, I record and I listen. That was one of my major thing. Like after school, then I used to go with different church bands and all, and I play. Sometime I play keyboard. Sometimes I play drums also. I learned drums also a little bit, so I play both. So that's how I started. Then right after that, then once I done my graduation from my hometown, Kerala, so I thought like I will do something related to sound. And I chose sound engineering and music production, and I had done sound engineering and music production from Chennai Music Launch. Then right after that, like I got a chance to work with a Bollywood singer named Vijay Prakash in Mumbai.
Mm.
That's how I shifted to Mumbai. Yeah.
Sweet. So do you still perform with sometimes just for old time's sake? Do you still perform as part of church acts?
Earlier, yeah, church acts I still perform, but like other bands and all, I like now I like stop. Yeah.
Okay. Are
Uh, okay, yeah. So, nothing like, as crazy as Sunil's story. I basically, I, for me, it's been like, just listening to a lot of English bands when I was growing up. I think when I turned 11, 12, I think around that time, I started listening to. So basically, I was sent to like a music class very initially in my childhood, like, when I was 4 or 5. So my mom got me a harmonium. And I did not know what to do with it. I just learned like 3, 4 notes. I used to just keep playing that. And I was in the music group in my school very initially, but that didn't really like turn into something for like the next 10 years. So when I was like 13, 14, around that time, I started listening to a lot of English music, rock music, and all that. And I wanted to learn the guitar, so because I wanted to be popular. So like I just wanted to learn the guitar so that like people in school would know me. So I picked up like a guitar from a local shop in my city in Lucknow, and I just started learning like very basic stuff and just the basic chords, and just to basically help me sing over it. And I met this friend. His name was Daniel. His name is Daniel, and like he's a very dear friend. And I started going to his church and like, started hanging out with him. And I got into like a bit of a gospel phase myself. And I started playing with his band very initially and singing with the band, like, playing a little bit of guitars also. So that sort of pushed me in the direction of like, actually performing also live music, not just like, putting out covers or not just like, playing it for like school shows or whatever. But yeah, did a lot of school shows also simultaneously. Like, did some school fests circuits in Lucknow. And then once I moved to college, like, things became a little more serious. I started my first YouTube channel around 2015 or something, started putting out videos like, covers on there. And then in college, I came to Pune and I got to know that there are clubs where you can perform at and like, you get paid for it. So I was like, why not do that? Like I started gigging around the city and I was playing at every single bar, every single pub possible. So I still have a lot of friends from the Pune club circuit, and that's something that I've done for like 2 years. So my college fees were my not college fees, but like my college pocket money was sorted from that, and had a great time. And then I met Sunil, like, in the last year of my college. And I had put out some covers on YouTube, which had gotten some traction. Like, they had reached 100K, 130K on YouTube. So I think he saw one of those covers and he got to know that he knows me through a mutual friend. So he's like, bro, like, let's connect together and like, let's make something. So it's been like a more of a self-taught thing for me. I've not really learned anywhere. But I think I got in it for wrong reasons, but then I sort of switched gears into actually really becoming passionate about it.
So when you guys came out with self-help radio in 2020, you released some of the singles in 2021 and eventually it came out in 2022 as an album. Did
Hmm.
that also come from a place where a lot of what you both had learned about the music making process, the music marketing process, um, self-help radio, the name of the album, does
Hmm.
it come from the idea that where a lot of whatever you guys did actually were done by yourselves, under whatever little knowledge you guys had about uh, going through the beats of everything. Is that a fair assumption?
No, actually, that's an interesting assumption, but that's not actually true. So what happened was during the COVID, we had like everybody was like, really down with people were like, very lonely. They were very cut out from the rest of the world, and nobody was really having a great time. Everybody was disconnected, and like, I myself had gone through a bit of a depression thing happening, like, when the second wave arrived and all that happened. So because obviously as I told you, like, I was playing around the city, and that had become like a very important part to me. And when COVID happened, and like, we were not able to play at all, and we had not done a single gig as like, as Western Ghats at that time. We had just done one corporate gig in Pondicherry, and that I don't know how it happened. So we were not able to do, like, we were not able to play music, so we were very cut off. And I think the entire album was written in that time. The all the songs were actually penned down in that time during COVID, and like, right before the second wave arrived, and like, a little bit after that also. So the phase was not very that phase of my life was not very like, happy or like very happening. Although I got super creative in that phase, all the songs that are written, they're in a zone of like, like if you take Lechal, for example, it talks about what even is this world about, why are we here, what's the meaning of life. So it's like super profound stuff. And it's all aligned towards like, understanding yourself and like, who you are, and finding yourself in the process. And that's why, like, the title self-help radio, like, you sort of learn to help yourselves as you go, like, as you proceed in life, as you progress in life. And this word self-help radio, this is actually, I think it's a podcast I was listening to at the time, during COVID, and like, during the second wave, I was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about some really, really good stuff. And I was like, dude, I have to include this name somewhere. Like, it's very, it's given me such a, it had healed me a little bit in that process. So I really wanted to include that name somewhere. So we were like, let's put this out as an album name, because we were not really, because all the songs, if you see sonically, they are very different. Lechal and Tu Hai, sorry, Tu Hai is not a part of the album, but like Lechal and then Kitabon, and
Yeah.
for example, Lechal Pilot, all these songs are like, super different when it comes to actual kind of experimentation we've done. So I did not want to, like, connect it from a sonic point of view, rather like a thematic point of view. So hence the name Self-Help Radio. Although some songs sort of not really fall in that vibe, but I was like, dude, this is our first album. We can make mistakes. It's okay.
Arya, Sunil, I think one of the best markers of progress, especially for an indie act today, is where artists get recognition, they get the visibility, they get noticed, amidst all the noise that is, splashed all over social media, where a lot of uh, music, in my opinion, is not exactly music. It's just content that is created now for the sake of virality, for the sake of numbers, for just for the sake of keeping people in business. That's it. How do you guys look at, as a band, how do you people see yourself operate in this space? Still get the, the opportunities once in a while where you guys are a part of big ticket lineups. Um, the recent one being the NH7 Weekender, which unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, or rather due to circumstances which were not in anybody's control, it got cancelled at the end minute. But how do you see for yourself that, despite a lot of mediocre music that's being peddled, there's still hope for genuine music to be recognized and heard?
Right. Uh, I think firstly, I'll just, like, answer the first part of your question. How do we operate in this, uh, like, the wave of content, the ocean of content that's been coming out? I think it's become a very important part of our jobs now to basically create content. Sunil and I, we keep going back and forth on what needs to be done today, what has to be, like, what's on the content calendar. We have a social media intern now who's handling, like, a lot of the stuff for us, basically content strategy, and coming up with a lot of interesting ways to engage our audiences, and how we can sort of use our music to become, like, a soundtrack to their lives using social media. So that's the goal. But yeah, that's like, very, that's easier said than done. Obviously, like, there's content that needs to be constantly shot and edited, and it has to, like, every week you have to put out 3 posts, 4 posts. So I think the process has become very clinical now. It is not only about music. It's become so much more than that. But I would not say that it's necessarily for the better. But a lot of people who are not necessarily musicians and are better at social media will get, inevitably more attention through social media, and their songs will become more popular, obviously, because of that. But I think this is a, I wouldn't say that social media is a momentary thing, but I know a lot of the virality that happens through these platforms, and where people get, like, their 10 minutes of fame, and, like, people become insanely famous. Obviously not including, like, people who have been, like, putting their time in, like Hanuman Kind, for example, very recently. Like, he had been putting out music for, like, what, 6 years, 7 years before that, before Big Dogs happened. But obviously he got that crazy fame through reels and all of that. But yeah, he had been putting his time in. But I would say, like, virality is not something that we are necessarily chasing. We are trying to build, like, a solid audience. Even if we get virality, that is, like, super, but we're not really trying to chase it, because we've understood that there is no formula to it. So, like, you keep creating your music, you keep creating engaging content around it, and, like, hope some of it sticks, hope some of it like, reaches to a wider audience, and you sort of like, play like both games equally. So you're like, really hoping for like, crazy stuff to happen, but you're also like, doing like a 9 to 5 job in music, which is like, creating content and being active and like, always being visible to your fans and engaging with them on a deeper level, creating a community. So all of that has also become a huge part of our jobs now. Sorry, what was the second part of your question? I sort of lost my train of thought.
That's okay. The second part was mostly about how do you guys also bring yourself to somewhere steer clear also. Like you already spoke about, or rather, just based on what you answered, Arya, if I could just tweak the second part of my question in a way and ask more about how does that put you, I mean, what exactly then become, what sort of a perspective does that leave a musician with? Because like you said, there's so much focus sometimes laid on marketing yourself as an artist that somewhere the music making process takes a backseat, and which is what
Hmm.
is I mean, if I have to just look at the last year or a year and a half now, I've been seeing this trend where I feel that there is a credibility crisis somewhere now, even in the independent music space, where a lot of the music that's being made is not music, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's mostly just just for the sake of just for the sake of eyeballs, or just for the sake of uh, a moment of fame maybe. I really don't know what exactly is the end goal that's being chased here, but what sort of space does that leave you know artists who are genuinely putting in effort, like you said, for a lot
Hmm.
of artists like your kind, it's not necessarily something that you want to that wasn't the reason why you guys came into being musicians firstly. Your
Right.
first and primary your primary pursuit was to make music. But when you see all this, going around, where somebody's trying to either chase that deal, or that sync deal, or somebody's trying to chase that the attention of the ones who are controlling, the momentum in the music business,
Hmm.
what then becomes your pursuit, your end pursuit, and what sort of a mind space would you want to, sort of create for yourself, that that in the midst of all of this, we are not losing our sanity, or we are not losing our focus from what we actually have set out to achieve.
Okay. I think music business as a whole is like a very multifaceted thing in itself. I think as musicians, before people had labels and everything to back them up, but even at that time, people had to have that X factor, which they could probably which a record label could capitalize on, make videos about, and then post and then make money off of it. Now the only thing is that there is no label. If you've still got that X factor, if you've still got that thing in you, you have to do everything yourself. You have to record yourself. You have to shoot everything yourself. You just have to do the technical part now more than the actual creative part that you anyway had to do. So that definitely takes up more of our times now. I would say it's a lot more to learn from a technical standpoint. But I think if you've got a great song, you've got a great song. If you've got something that people want to listen to and people will want to connect to, you will be heard and you will find your audience like eventually. If not today, the song is not dead. If since you've released a song, like if you released a song 5 years ago, it does not mean that the song cannot pick up again. The song cannot
Yeah.
become famous now. So that's something that I have very recently learned, that you should not really stop marketing your own, and keep at it as much as you can. But yeah, coming back to your question, how do we sort of not lose our sight in all of this? I just think we have like come up with these systems wherein like the creative part of us, like Sunil and I, the creative space is very reserved for just the creative conversations. And when we are talking about the rest of it, when we come to like the technicals and all of that, like shooting content and what has to be planned, what has to be done, so that's done on a very separate narrative, very separate time, and it's done in a very different kind of a space altogether. So we don't really lose sight of like the bigger targets, as in like, okay, we have to release 7 songs this year. So that's one part of conversation, and the second part of conversation is, okay, with these 7 songs, this much content has to go out, so that has to be shot. So we don't like, we've like separated these two spaces very well to know that, okay, that's a different conversation we are having, and this is a different conversation. So I think that works for us both, at least for now. But like we've sort of delegated a lot of it to like there, like a video editor. We have a DOP who works with us all the time, so he has like a nice like nice working relationship with an editor, so he would deal with the editor. He would sort out the content for us. And if we are shooting it ourselves on our cameras, we can just send it to the editor, and the social media in turn would send us some like content ideas. So I just think like building a team around you and building your own sort of a small record label is what all the artists should sort of focus on nowadays. And if you have friends to do that for you, like, that's awesome. I don't have friends to do that for me, but if you can like delegate it yourself, hire people, pay them money, I think that's a very good investment in like today's world, because you can't be left behind. Like if an artist is, if like Amit Trivedi, not Amit Trivedi, but like if like artists like Lisa Mishra and all these guys can be active on social media, and like they can keep putting out stuff, and like us as like small artists who are just like making a mark in the indie scene, we definitely have to do even more than that to basically reach out to a bigger audience. And you can be in your own space, you can be like, okay, I just want to make music, I don't want to deal with all of this. But is that sustainable for a successful musical career? I don't think so. So you have to play that game, and I just think like that's how the industry is changing, so we have to change according to that.
Yeah. Sunil, your thoughts?
Yeah, almost same only. Like nowadays, like all social media is very important. So sometime me and Arya was actually like thinking like we were creating good number of songs, but it is not reaching. So we were like it was a challenging part for us to like be very active on social media. Like for one song, we have to create different types of contents and all. So since we are musicians, we were lacking that thing actually. So now we were working on that also. Since the industry is going towards that, we also need to focus on that side to reach to a bigger crowd. Yeah.
Uh, you know, live music now in the country has really it's really going through like this massive leap of sorts. It's suddenly, it's really growing by leaps and bounds. And we have reached a stage now where international acts, where and then we as an entire generation, just as an audience, as listeners, have grown up listening to and now touring our country in a way. And the Western Ghats as band have been, very fortunate, and I'm so glad to, as a listener, to have, now be seeing how you guys are performing at big ticketed events like, Zomaland uh, and the other likes. You all have played at festivals too. I want to ask you guys, it's very easy for fans to just, sometimes in jest, they very sweetly write in comments, come to our city, play, come to our college, play for us, without understanding what is the whole process of planning, taking care of the
Yeah.
infrastructure, the expenditure that all, the artist has to bear to even make it to your city. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you guys, what is the most fun part of touring and what is not the fun part of touring, when you guys have to travel to other cities for shows?
Okay, so like I don't think I've heard a more accurate sort of a like the anecdote that you sort of like brought in about like fans reaching out to you saying like come to our city, come to our city. That happens so often, like now I have sort of started replying in that like tone, okay, can you organize something for us? because they because a lot of times they don't know what goes into it. If like we are at that point key, okay, we have been reached out from these many people to basically, okay, we like they want to see Western Ghats in their city. So we would sort of keep a mental note of, okay, this guy is in Pune, that because you have those bunch of active fans who are always interacting and who are always like come to our city, come to our city. So you like sort of make a mental note of, okay, this guy lives in Pune, this guy lives in Bangalore, or something like so when you're in Bangalore you would reach out to him and tell him, okay bro, I'm performing in your city, come down, like and like if you want to watch us want to watch us live. So that's what happens. But yeah, that was a very interesting thing that you brought out. And the fun part about touring, I would say, like, playing to an audience, playing to a fresh audience for the first time, and like, all the different things that we get to experience, like in different cities, like their cultures. And for example, we were in Assam last year, and we got to hang out with a few artisans, local artisans over there, and they had this tree bark thing that they were painting on, and it was like, very Indian mythological scriptures and like paintings and all of that. I don't know what that was, but that was such an interesting thing to actually like visit, to actually see happening in real time, and like talk to those people, how they make a living and all of that. So meeting a lot of different artists from different backgrounds, and like experiencing different cultures, trying out different kinds of foods, exploring different places. So that's the fun part about touring. uh, I would say the bad part about it is like, the stress. And even if you're in a new place, so for example, we were just in Bangkok, we were in Thailand, and we wanted to explore everything. Like if we wanted to see the city, we wanted to go to the beach and all of that. But see, that cannot happen. You're on you're on the client's clock. You're there, and like you got to perform your show. You can ask for probably one more day to stay in Thailand, but that also you got to take care of the logistics. So a lot of times, and we were actually lucky to have like a 3-4 day space between NH7 and the Thailand gig. So we were like, okay, we'll stay another day, we'll hang out a little bit. But that is not like enough to explore a fresh place. You want like 2-3 days to like roam around and enjoy. So I think
Your
every single
actual
place.
purpose of, I'm sorry to interrupt, sometimes I feel like your actual
Yeah.
purpose of visiting a city tires you out so much that you just want to spend the rest of the trip in bed and then just go back
Yes.
to.
Totally, totally, totally. So that's exactly what happens a lot of times. But now we have like, we don't really care about like, us being tired. We go out in the night, we hang out, like, we explore how much ever we can, jitna bhi time bachta hai. But yeah, that's, I think, the bad part about it. And yeah, that's it. Sunil, you wanna take it?
Sunil?
Yeah, same only. Like, yeah,
He's
the
like
best part is like
copy
we
paste.
can.
He's like copy Arya, paste Arya. That's it.
Already Arya covered everything, so that's why like I don't
Next,
have
next,
nothing much
next
to
question.
say.
You're
Yeah,
taking it first, so
I'm going. I'm
I'll
going
see.
to. This
Yeah,
actually
so
reminds me of a film roundtable that happened once, which I will, tell you guys about off the record. But yes, yes, Sunil, you were saying.
Okay.
the fun part is like, yeah, Arya already mentioned like the exploring places and like yeah, having their new food, new types of food, and like, yeah, all those stuff. So that is a fun part. And like the bad part is like already like before a tour, like if it's a single show also, before that like we would be like very tired. Like we will start the preparations like 3-4 days before onwards. So it will be like 3-4 days onwards, like it will be sleepless nights. And the one day before we will be traveling, that day also like it will be like full night we will be traveling. Where then we will reach the place and then do the sound check. After the show we will be dead tired. So that is also like a sad part of this. Yeah. So but like we won't get like normally we won't get much time to explore places because of like client only give the same day ticket or like next day early morning. So that's the another sad part. Yeah.
Ayo. Now I
Yeah.
have to now since Sunil mentioned about client, you're at the mercy of your client. I think I have to ask this question. I know a lot of artists who besides performing for live for the audiences, there are also a lot of corporate gigs and all that you have to sometimes take, just to supplement your income. Sunil, has there been an outrageous request, an extremely bizarre request by the client ever that first made you like, what is this? What are they asking for? And now when you think about it in the past, it sort of makes you chuckle that this is what we have had to go through to come this far.
So yeah, what to say, Arya? You have
I
hello.
don't really remember like crazy outrageous requests like by any clients. I think we've been
Yeah,
very lucky that way. We've gotten like very good clients and like people who
yeah,
have like whoever's hired us up till now, they have been a little bit passionate about what Western Guard stands for. And I don't know, we have
correct.
not done too many corporates to actually
Oh,
like have very weird requests. We've done a few here and there. And I think those are also like, people we actually have like,
Mm.
some mutuals with, and though they already know about the band. So they sort of hired us to play like, three, four originals and like five, six covers. So that's been even in the corporates, we play like, four, five originals for sure. Like, that's something that we make sure of because as artists, I know like you're getting paid for playing covers, and you have to play like a lot of Bollywood. And I think that's not really something that we are very apprehensive of. Like Sunil and I, we are very open about it, that okay, yeah, you have to play Bollywood, dude. This country is like I myself have like have heard all the like Bollywood music, like growing up. And I think KK and all these guys, they've been such a big part of our like listening discography, that I don't really look down upon it, and I don't really think that that's something bad. So I think a lot of artists would find this outrageous, that okay, they asked me to play like some Bollywood song, but I don't really think that, like you are on the time of the client, you are supposed to like entertain them and make them dance. So even if you have to play like weird songs which like they want you to play, I think like we take it in a very sporting, like in a very chill manner, that we'd love to like do whatever the client wants, and we would add like a little bit of Western Ghats tadka to it, like flavor to it, and that would somehow fly, like it would
For that,
somehow.
I remember one instance like recently we went to Assam. So the client already told can you guys sing some Assami songs? So so we tried which song? Which song was that? Like
So we sang this. I actually learned an Assamese song for that. It's called Ebeli
yeah,
Mook, and we played that to an audience,
by
and people went
Papon.
crazy. By Papon, yes, people went crazy. People went
Yes.
insane. Yeah. So what were you saying, Sunil? Like, was that leading up
Yeah,
to
yeah,
something?
yeah. So no. I was just thinking of like while you were talking that instance.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's not outrageous. See, like that was
yeah,
a very sweet.
it's not outrageous. It's just something
Yeah.
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
when in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Exactly. 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 So we love to do like
Yeah.
different kinds of gigs, corporates or whatever. Whatever comes our way, we are very like we are very chill about the opportunities that we get, and we think like that the opportunities that are coming to us, we would love to take them if like they are falling in the right price bracket, and if it's working out for us. We don't really see like कि कैसा music बजाना है or whatever. Obviously, we will not do like like the Bollywood very commercial pop, like
Yeah.
आज blue है पानी पानी and all that stuff. But like we love to do whatever like comes our
I can so imagine this visual, you guys taking the stage and doing Aaj blue hai pani pani, oh no. So I
yeah.
think just to quickly summarize where you guys were getting at, as long as you know people who are approaching you, as long as they have great intent and there's a good price attached to what's being requested, y'all
Yeah.
forego all your inhibitions. That's pretty much
A little bit,
what,
a little bit, yes. Not complete, like
yeah.
exactly. Like so the client has to
But you're not
understand what
rigid, is what you're not flexible.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes. We are pretty flexible that way. And we are entertainers. Like, at the end
Yeah,
of the day,
yeah,
like
yeah.
our music that we are trying to, like, play for people, that's like a bigger life goal, and we want people to sing that back to us. Like that's like
yes,
the ultimate thing that we want, like, want to happen. But as of now, to make a name out there and, like, get the money in the bank and make sure, like, that we are actively playing at, like, gigs and keep where we are staying in practice, I think that's a price, like, all musicians have to pay. And we take it very sportingly. We don't really care about all of that, like, little bit of Bollywood stuff and, like, happening here and there. That's also quite enjoyable now. Like, we play this KK mashup at like college gigs and
Kolkata.
stuff. So we played that in Kolkata for the first time, and people went crazy. Like people
Ah,
completely lost it. It was the biggest, I think, biggest crowd we have played to, and I think it was about what I think it was more
12,000.
than 10,000, 15,000 people singing back like the KK parts to us. And it was huge. It was huge. And then so once we got their attention, right, we played like a lot of good Bollywood music for them and we got their attention. We were able to have them sing our songs back to us. And we were able to leverage that out of playing those songs. So if you're rigid also, if you're rigid like that, then I don't think you get to have those moments with your audience
true,
also.
true, true.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely. So perfectly put. I think it's so important as artists that sometimes, you let go of your own initial, what to say, I mean, you just let go of your own inhibitions sometimes just to understand what the audience wants, because sometimes just letting go of your own, your own inherent prejudice or biases is so important in sometimes establishing that kind of relationship with audience. So I'm glad that you guys speak about this, and I hope this translates to much better opportunities for you. Just last two quick questions before we wrap up. One of my favorite questions to ask. This is always funnily my second last question in almost every interview, but it's one of my favorite questions to ask because I am a huge believer of um, community bonding and building. And I always want to know what are my favorite artists listening to. So, who are the Indian independent artists that the Western Ghats love listening to? You guys have already mentioned the local train as your inspiration, but apart from them, young new acts who you think are making great music. And
Hmm.
also in recent interviews, I've especially when I've spoken to bands, um,
Hmm.
it's also somewhere been a very sad moment in contemporary music in today's day and age where bands are a bit on the decline. On the
Hmm.
there are hardly bands playing, and because a lot of them, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, they either broke up or it's
Hmm.
not there's not enough finances to really keep a band together anymore. But
Right.
so when I'm asking you Indian independent acts that you love listening to, I would preferably love if you guys mention bands that y'all have y'all whose music y'all dig into in your spare time. But in short, just artists from the country right now that y'all have been listening to and whose music you really love.
Sunil, you want to take this first?
I used to listen like lot of artists, as I mentioned, like local train was one of our one of mine also, like greatest inspiration. Like apart from that, I used to listen Indian Ocean, Parikrama, some of the good bands from India. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think lately I've been listening to this new guy called Char Diwali.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
right up on everybody's favorites. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great,
Crazy stuff.
great
Crazy,
guy.
very, very,
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool
Yeah.
stuff. Very cool stuff he's been putting out. So love the soundscape, everything like, production standpoint, even the songwriting. It's very parody type of music that he is doing, and it's very interesting. I love everything that he's been putting out. Not the very core hip hop stuff,
Yeah.
but like the melodic rap stuff that he's been putting out. So a lot of that. I listen to a lot of hip hop as well, like, that's been going, like, that's been going around a lot of Seedhe Moth, the initial bit, and
Mm.
from a band standpoint, I listen to Yellow Diary a lot. Yellow Diary is like, but like I like their I was in the Yellow Diary phase in the 2022 2023 phase. So I was listening to all their music back then. I haven't been able to catch up to their new tracks like Kahe Kahe and all that, but I would love to dig into that very soon. And I really like Chai Mein Toast. They are very interesting. They have a very, very strong sound that they sort of cling to, and they like, play around that in that territory, but they play very well in that zone. So yeah, I think these couple of acts, and yeah, some more singer songwriters here and there that keep popping up, but like, they haven't really broken out into the mainstream yet. So a lot of following of independent playlists on Spotify, YouTube Music, everywhere. So keep discovering artists like that.
Finally, Arya, Sunil, you guys have had a good 2024 also with the release of, personally, one of my favorite tracks of the year has to be Mazhabo, which I feel is such an important and very relevant song in today's day and age. Uh, it's not in your face, a political song, and I'm sure that's not the objective with which you guys, set out to make this song. But I really like the fact
Right.
that for a moment, when you are listening, the way it has been written also, it actually makes you as a listener to sit up and think and see how are things really going about around you, and how somewhere it affects you, even if you choose to be apolitical. Apolitical, I don't think so is anymore an option in this country. So it's a
Yeah.
very, very beautiful and relevant song. And at the same time, just very recently, you guys have come out with Beshumar. So firstly, congratulations, another release, brand new release. And just quickly, for your listeners who are watching this and who are, might hopefully be tuning into your music, and I'm speaking about the new listeners. What do you want to quickly tell them about both Mazhabo and Beshumar?
Okay. So Mazhabo is like as you said, like, it's not a very in your face political track. We were trying to steer clear of, like, doing something which is like, which can be interpreted as like offensive to anybody. But, you gotta play, like, you gotta say what your mind really wants to say. And I think I've tried to write it in the most not a safe way possible, but I've tried to keep it, like, as not aligned to one particular community, and talking about everything in general, and like, how the world has been moving forward, and how, like, people are getting more intolerant than ever. So that's what the song is about. And I just feel like religion is meant to, like, bind us together, and like, the entire idea of God and everything around it, the community around it, is essentially like a religion. So that's supposed to, like, bring people together. And once that sort of comes in, like, and people start using religion for, like, their particular, their own motives, I feel like that's where like, everything goes downhill. And that one little fact was something that I wanted to explore with Mazhabo. And I just felt like, it was pretty relevant, obviously, like, given the scenario of last year, or everything that's happened. But yeah, I wanted to make a track which talks about something very real, but also has like a Western Ghats vibe to it, Western Ghats songwriting to it, and it's not, like, very political in nature. So yeah, that's what I've tried to do with Mazhabo. And Sunil obviously has, like, spent more than ample time on the track to basically bring everything to life, and like, those large drums, large sounding guitars, and like, making everything so huge behind the vocals, and everything, like, popping up as much as possible when the Mazhabo line hits, and everything, like, really pops up. So that's the magic that Sunil has brought into it. And I feel like it's all in all a great song to listen to. I just am a little disappointed with the reception of it, because the song was really intended to be like, one of our biggest releases, and we were planning for it to, like, we actually start all our live shows with that song, because it starts like a tuck 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 tuck, then it becomes like a huge guitar wall. So that's a huge song, very impactful when you're playing it live. So we were really hoping for it to be received a lot more better. But yeah, like, as I said, like, a song is not dead after it's released. We will be pushing it out as much as possible, and we really hope that, like, more and more people tune into Mazhabo and listen to it. uh, Coming to Beshumar, Beshumar is a chill track. It's a love song, and, like, it's about, like, being in your ex's city and not meeting them. Obviously, like, those feelings always remain in your heart, and you're always like,
Is that,
you don't want.
sorry, I
Sorry,
have
you
to
go.
ask this on, sorry, I have to ask this on record. Is that a reference to Hyderabad? No, yeah, she's your fiance right
No, no,
now.
no, 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 no. No, I ended
Sorry.
up with that girl. Yeah.
Yeah, cut.
So yeah. The idea is to basically, it's a nostalgic song. It plays on, like, people's nostalgia, and, like, it just tries to capture that feeling of not being over your ex yet. And yeah, that's what I've tried to say with that song. It's not very deep. It's very chill. It's very cool. It's very nice. It's got a great melody. I really love singing it, and it's a very good playable guitar song which everybody can hum to and, like, sing along to. And yeah, Beshumar is really chill like that.
Well, on that note, we are in just the concluding weeks of 2024. Here's hoping that 2025 brings you more opportunities where you get to play your music live. And I would love to be at one of your live shows where I actually hear Mazhabo in its entirety, the way Arya intended to, present this to his listeners. But thank you so much, Arya, Sunil, for taking the time out and speaking to me for On VJ's playlist. This has been such an amazing chat, and it has helped me know you guys a lot better behind all the wonderful tunes that you've been making since the time you started out in 2020. Thank you so much, and your parting thoughts as we conclude this episode.
Thank you so much, Vijay, for
Thank
having
you so
us,
much.
and keep doing this. I think, like, musicians really love to speak their minds, and like, podcast is something where you're not just, like, speaking through a song, but you're literally speaking to an audience. And if people like, actually tune into us talking for the first time, I think they'll get a better perspective of what we are all about. And yeah, I think it's a lovely thing that you're doing, and thank you so much for having us.
The
Thank you so
pleasure
much,
is all
Vijayalakshmi.
mine. Thank you, Sunil. The pleasure is all mine. And yes, the Western Ghats, for our viewers who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be back with another episode on VJ's playlist. Stay tuned. Thank you once again.